Hey guys and girls, welcome to this week's episode of No BS with Birchy podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Birch. This is a show unraveling the truth to the facade of the 21st century. We're now exiting the matrix and waking up to motherfucking reality. Today is a miserable discussion, right? But you need to hear it. It's like if you're fat and don't want to look in the mirror, you need to get to the gym. If you're broke and you don't want to look at your problems, then you need to face your problems, right? This one here is one that I just thought about recently. I logged online and I saw, I don't follow many people, right? I don't follow many people in the property space. I don't look at what people do or that really. But there's this guy in America and his name's Mark Ferguson. And he's a very hands-on investor. And someone showed it to me many years ago, like maybe 10 years ago, his stuff, and said, this guy looks like what you do back in the day, what I talked about and whatnot. And I just followed his stuff, and I found it just fun seeing that he was like renovating stuff in America and whatever, right? And it was sad because like you see these people, right? People say to me, "Oh, Birchy, it's weird talking to you because it's like I'm talking to someone I always watch or listen to, right? When I do strategy sessions and do deals with my clients and whatnot." But so yeah, I'd seen this guy, and he's been a part of my reels for the last 10 years or so. And one day, something popped up that he died, right? And I don't know what, he had an aneurysm or something in his lung, a clot or something. I don't know what it was, but anyway, don't like to speculate. If something happened to him, it was a sudden death, right? And he was 44 years old. And I was like, shit, never seen his wife. I know he spoke about kids. He's got cars and stuff that he drives around, whatever. And he was a lovely guy. And then it made me think. And I saw his wife come on and she said, oh, it's been tough. And it's lucky Mark had a disaster plan for us and, whatnot. And I thought about it. I was like, shit, right? Like we drive around, like, here's just some random questions for you to think about and ponder about, guys. Do you drive a car? Do you drive the car and have it insured? Well, yeah, of course you'd have your car insured. Is your house insured? Yeah, my house is insured too, right? So you're taking insurance policies because you could lose like a 20 grand asset, a 50 grand asset, a 200 grand asset, whatever the case may be, right? Your house could burn down, whatever. But what measures are you taking in place for after you're no longer here, right? Have you got a spouse? Have you got children? Have you got grandchildren? What's your relationship like with your mother, your father, your siblings, whatever, right? And it made me think, right? Like, I think it's important. Everyone has a will, firstly, right? Get a will. If you don't have a will, get a fucking will, right? The reason being is that's a document. It's a legal document. Say, this is what happens in, I want my assets to go here. I want the kids to go there. You can make your wishes on that and be able to call shots from beyond the grave after you're no longer here. And the reason why I said at the start of this, like, if you don't like looking in the mirror, you need to, go, hey, why don't I like looking in the mirror? Because you need to take action. No one wants to talk about death. No one wants to talk about the fact that inevitably we're all going to fucking die, right? Some people will get rich. Some people won't get rich. Some people will be happy. Some people will be sad. Some people have a Lambo. Some people have a car. Some people have no car. Some people have no driver's license. Some people will be lucky to eat this week, right? So nothing in life is really, everything's what we make of it, right? But the one thing's for sure, right? People say death and taxes, right? Well, people evade taxes. People live in different countries. People go to Dubai, right? One thing's sure as fuck is we're all going to die, right? And it's not something anyone wants to talk about. Well, people like to talk about. Some people do, but it's not something you'd be front of mind, right? But I think it's very important in the world where people are dying a lot and things are happening. And it's not just for you. It's like, what about your parents? What about your spouse? What about if something happens, right? No one expects it, right? I turned 40 this year, and I think to myself, I was only 25 2 weeks ago, right? But time just flies, right? And it's inevitable as we get older. It's like, well, one day it's going to happen to all of us, right? And we don't like to think about that, but we are all aging. You might be 20 watching this. You might be 30. Things don't last forever. Things constantly changing. Players will come and players will go, as they say, right? And the table will still remain. So if you've worked all this hard, you've built yourself up wealth, you've got your family into a position, right? what does your disaster plan look like? And, I've thought a lot about wills, and I've talked about wills a lot over these. If you don't have a will, I'm not going to bang on too much about wills, but you need a will, right? I'll get the team to throw in a link here to speak to the team at Zenith Legal to speak to someone. Whatever it costs for a will, it's not much, right? It's very little in consideration. You're paying more in insurance every year than what you would be to get a will drawn up, right? But besides the will, which everyone needs, right? If you die and you say you've got a husband and a wife, and then however the properties are structured, right? What happens to the other half of the property or the portfolio or the house? Could your missus and kids be, on the streets because, the house has got to be sold due to probate and whatever because you didn't have that in place? So I'm going to leave that to the side, right? The thing that made me think of seeing this guy die, Mark Ferguson, right, was that when his missus said about the disaster plan, it made me actually think about my position. It made me think more about, hey, yeah, you can have a will, but what comes greater than that, right? And what's the instruction manuals, right? What are your beliefs on what you're doing today and the actions that you're taking today, and why are you taking those actions? Because I buy lots of things, right? Whether it be houses or, I invest in the most peculiar and weirdest and strangest things, right? And let me tell you, I've got so many possessions or items that I've invested into, which have come from deceased states. And I love seeing deceased estates because I'm like, fuck, I get things cheap, right? Kids just want the money. They never saw the value in mum or dad's work. They never saw the value in what they were collecting, what they were doing, what they were investing in. So the value is only in your eyes of what you value something as, and not your spouse, not your siblings, not your parents, not your children, right? And they'll just go, oh, it's just shit. Dad used to like this, mum used to like that, whatever the case may be. But they may not value it, right? So it made me think, well, if something was to happen to me, touch wood, it doesn't, right? It will eventually happen to all of us. If something was to happen, who would be the best person on specific parts of my life that I'd want to get involved to be able to say, no, Nathan thinks this is how he sees that, right? So do you have a document, a manifesto, right? It could be a booklet. It could be a Excel spreadsheet with different sheets and goes, well, on the kids, I want this person to look after the kids because of X, Y, Z. I want their belief. I want the kids to not be jabbed. I want them to have, organic food. I don't want things out of a packet. I don't want seed oils fed to my kids. I don't want the kids getting involved with this. What does the kids aspect look like? And, someone might be very good with financials around you, but someone may not be good at raising children around you. So what does your family life look like? What does your asset pool look like? Do you have businesses? Do you have properties? Whatever. Right? So you've got a business. What would be the succession planning of your business, right? Yeah, you can say, oh, the business will go to this person, or the will will go to here, or the will will go to there. But what would be your set procedure of what would happen to that said business? I think to myself, I carry lots of things that I wouldn't carry if I wasn't me, right? There's not the things that I wouldn't say, okay, my children or my grandchildren would be like, hey, you don't worry about that, right? Like if I was to die, I'd be like, yeah, don't worry about that. Like scrap that, cut that part of the empire out and dispose of it. You don't need to worry about it. You need to streamline and focus and hone in on, lean onto this. When it comes to properties, let's say you got 20 properties, right? There's people that'll turn around and say, well, I'll just sell them all, right? Get cash. Well, the person that doesn't understand would go totally against everything that you've been investing for, right? Because they weren't fully across your mind and your brain as to what you were doing. So would there be a debt left over, right? I think through my portfolio, hundreds of properties, hope it to be tens of thousands of properties before Birchy passes in the future. But I think about it. I think, okay, well, some of those properties, I wouldn't want my kids having to worry about the renos and development. Is it need to be development? Is it development they're going to be focusing on, right? What segment of those properties and what do they provide, and what is the is if you've got someone, especially if someone is grief-stricken, right, and they're in a financial position or something where they need to make decisions, it's like, would they be making the decision based on logic or based on emotion, based on how they feel on the day? Because if you had more time to think about something, you'd probably do a different scenario. So if there was a guide to be able to say, okay, let's say I've got 20 properties, some of them have debt, some of them don't have debt, I'm going to be passing, leaving these assets to these people, right? Maybe it'd be best that this one gets sold, this one here gets debt recycled over here, the debt gets expired, we pay out the debt. What would be the instruction manuals? How would you want to see your portfolio performing for you in the hands of someone else because you aren't here? I don't know, you could have a 10-year-old kid, right? And you go, I want my kid to have it when they're 20, but there's 10 years to go, and a 20-year-old wouldn't have the same belief system, especially if someone's 10 and the parent dies. By the time you get to 20, they've had 50% of their life of new programming and new beliefs and new thought systems around them to be thinking, okay, well, yeah, what my dad did a decade ago doesn't apply today or whatever. So it's very crucial to be thinking, okay, what are the specific steps for this to be for the next 50, 100 years after, right? And it might sound stupid when I'm saying, hey, what's it look like in 50 years or 20 years or 10 years or whatever, right? And I saw something on that Investor Mall, something about his wife saying, I'm going to sell the cars, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it's like, see, there's like a process already that he left for the wife to enact. She might be making decisions that wouldn't be in line with him. Obviously, he spent a decade. I think he's got some Lamborghini Countach or something. Very humble guy he was. And yeah, it's like, would that be what he wants to see? Would he want his kid to have that car? Would he want, whatever the case may look like? So I guess the thing we can't escape, right? My point of this video is we're all going to die at some point, right? Protect your shit. Get a plan in place. What is your plan? You've had a plan to accumulate assets. You've had a plan to meet your spouse, to have a child, to get in the business, to do this, to help out your humanitarian part of your life, your part where your philanthropy. What do you have a foundation you want to set up? Is there, does all your wealth go back over here and help out your gift to the world, right? I've seen and worked with people that are like, okay, we need to get a legacy to continue on. This person has been able to gift me their hobbies with this, their passions with that. I want to give back to that. I need the assets to be able to work in perpetuity to get their goal alive, right? It could be saving koalas, right? Koalas are dying. Did you know that? Random, right? I went to a koala farm and seen some stuff, right? I think they've also got chlamydia, but that's a different story. But it's saving koalas is your hobby, and you want to go, hey, I want to put all my money to research and development and protecting and whatever. Is it about saving dogs, right, and having a refuge home for dogs? Is it, what do you want after you, right? We're here in a flash and out in a flash, and our life is short on this earth, right? If you get 100 years, right, it's still a season. So what do you want to be remembered for, and what things can you do with what you've accumulated whilst being in existence, and what can you leave behind? Do you want to have all your assets sold, put into a trust, put over here, build a foundation that teaches kids how to learn something better? I don't know, right? That's all yours. But when was the last time you put any thought into that? Because inevitably, if you're not going to die today or tomorrow or next week, next month, next year, hopefully for all of you, it's another 100 years, right? But inevitably it's going to happen at some point, and you should be thinking of that because it is an exit strategy, right? It's an exit strategy to your life. How do you exit strategy? I've thought about this, and I think when I, get thrown away, that, the avatar that I was attached to at birth, right? I want to be broke when I go, right? But I want to leave the legacy for the next generation, the generation after that, and be able to build the foundation of everything I do today. And I have done to be able to, I'm always playing for my kids and grandchildren, not playing for myself anymore. So I do think about that. And that's what does your strategy, what does your disaster plan look like? How is your wishes going to be protected? How are your children going to be looked after? Have a plan, right? I don't have the answer for it exactly, but put some thought into it, because inevitably you can avoid, or you can have lots of things that happen, but inevitably that's the one thing none of us are getting out of. So, there was my thoughts. That was my thought of today. So if you want information on how to get a will set up, click on the details below. I'll get my team. If you watch this from a video, my team will put a link on how to speak to Zenith Legal in order to get a will started. It's cheaper than insuring a car or insuring your house per year. If you need more help on working out a disaster plan, wanting to chat to someone about, what would an exit strategy look like, whatever, we talk about strategy for getting into the portfolio. If you want a strategy for other sides, or it could be inheritance, it could be, transition of wealth from a parent to a child, or whatever the case may be, reach out at the team, 1300 367 925. Email us at admin@binvested.com.au. If you're wanting to just email us about getting a will sorted, just put in there Zenith Legal or get me a will or whatever, and my team will connect you with the lawyers. So thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry it's been a bit of a miserable one talking about death, but it's something we have to talk about. Let's not avoid it. Let's talk about it and have best plan moving forward. If you like the video, smash up the like, share it around. And every Thursday, Google Play, Apple Play, Spotify, and YouTube. Have a great week. Bye for now.
Like Bilal said, man, we're stuck in the matrix. This my advice, don't care if you take it. The dollar back to die, soon to be hyperinflated.